Hey, what's going on, everyone? Nikki Skevich here with Daily Fantasy Winners. We've got the next episode of Tee to Green, and this episode is for the WGC Mexico Championship. And the reason why it is the WGC Mexico Championship instead of the WGC Cadillac Championship is because the Cadillac Championship was at Doral, and Doral was Trump's course. And the PGA Tour could not get a sponsorship for the WGC tournament at Doral, and so they elected to move to Mexico, and I think that's for pretty obvious reasons. And so, in any case, let's move on to the tournament. But before I get into the specifics, I just want to say this kind of as a disclaimer. I would highly recommend, if you are a regular Daily Fantasy PGA player, to limit your bankroll this week. If you are in the beginning stages of playing PGA Daily Fantasy, you may just not even want to play this week. And I only say this because this is a week there's going to be a lot more luck and a lot more variance this week. And I'll get into a lot of the specific reasons for this, in a little bit as we go on through the video, but it's basically because this is a new venue. That's the biggest thing, but there will be some other things as well. So this is just a week, be smart with it. Just maybe play a couple of really cheap GPPs or something like that. I would just, whatever your bankroll is, just limit it, whatever it might be. So in any case, details about the tournament. What do you need to know? This is a no-cut event. There are only 77 players in this field. Everyone is guaranteed 72 holes, unless somebody withdraws, with an injury or gets disqualified for whatever reason. And so, but other than that, you're guaranteed 72 holes. And so because of this, you can be more aggressive with your lineups. At the same time, of course, you do want to make smart lineups. You don't want to just roster 3 min salary guys in golf. That's not a very smart idea, especially when you take a look at who's in this field and priced where. But at the same time, you can be a little bit more aggressive in terms of the stars and scrubs if you wish to do so. And you don't want to do that. I don't know. Just saying you have a little more flexibility here, and you don't have to worry about cut makers here, so to speak. And so, obviously, since this is a WGC tournament, this is a very strong field. And for those of you who are new to golf and daily fantasy golf, for those of you that don't know what the WGC is, it stands for World Golf Championship. There are a few of these each year, and the most basic way I can describe it is they are mini majors. They are events that are basically second tier to majors before PGA Tour events. It's kind of viewed like that, and so. And they're also smaller fields a little bit. Like I said, there's 77 people in this event, and so how you qualify for this is you have to be in the top 50 of the official World Golf Rankings, and then there are some other various ways you can qualify for as well to make up the 77-person field. And so I think 49 of the 50 people in the official World Golf Rankings right now are in this field. The one who is not is Jason Day, who has a double ear infection and got the flu, it sounds like. And the other thing I'll also say is I don't think he cited this, but he's had vertigo issues in the past, and this is a tournament in Mexico City, which is like 7,000 and some odd feet in the air. Or above sea level, I should say. And so, because that's a couple thousand feet higher than Denver. And so just to say that's not something you want to mess around with at all. And so I don't blame him at all for that. And, quite frankly, for all that, if you're somebody out there that makes fun of Jason Day and says like, oh, he like makes up all these excuses and withdraws all the time, like, I just don't really get the point of making fun of injured people or people get sick frequently. Like, I'm all for humor and people hitting bad shots, and you openly criticize them for not playing good golf at certain times. Like, whatever, I guess that's fair game. But like openly criticizing someone for being sick and just getting injured like frequently, I don't get it. And plus, we've had 11 or 12 withdrawals over the last 2 weeks. Of people withdrawing after lock on Thursday, and I would much rather have somebody withdraw ahead of time because it not only makes it easier for daily fantasy players to not roster somebody that's going to withdraw, but it also is better for the people playing in the tournaments because they can find somebody else to take his place instead. And so, although this is a WGC, I don't know if somebody technically replaces him at this specific event, but usually when somebody withdraws or decides not to play an event, somebody else can take his spot that's like a young rising star that wants to get in or something like that. And so I just, I would rather try to have somebody withdraw ahead of time like he's choosing to do versus like what a lot of people have been doing recently, whether it's a slight injury or whether it's like somebody just withdrawing because they're going to miss the cut and they don't want to wait out the bad weather. Like that happened at the Genesis Open. So in any case, quick rant. Sorry, I got off topic there. All right. The last thing about what you need to know about just about the tournament angle of this is and this will feed into what we need to know about the course, is that this is the first time this golf course has been used in a PGA event, so we have no course data to go off of. Maybe you somehow know somebody that's played this golf course. Maybe you've done some, you have a little inside information, but for the most part, this course is pretty foreign to everybody, and so there's not this. You really can't get this. Really tough to get any kind of a statistical edge on here and knowing what exactly you're looking for, other than listening to analysts or reading from golf writers maybe that are on site, or listening to player interviews, things like that. That's really going to be, and seeing pictures and videos of the course. That's going to be your only real source of material on course information, which that's pretty difficult to find to deal with. So that's another element why I'm saying limit your bankroll this week. All right, details about the course. Again, this is at Club de Golf Chapultepec. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. That's the best I got. I'm just going to leave it at that. So a little bit of a complex name there, I think. In any case, so that's where the tournament's at. It's just outside of Mexico City. It is a par 71, tipping out at 7,330 yards. We have 3 par 5s. Number 6 is 625 yards, which is uphill and has water in front of the green. Number 11 is 622 yards, which is slightly downhill, but the green is hidden behind some trees. That's kind of like a really sharp dogleg to the right at the end, and it's kind of a weird little angle there. And then number 15 is 572 yards, but it's straight up the hill. And so we've got 3 pretty darn long par 5s, and then we have a short par 4, number 1, which is only 316 yards. There are actually 2 different greens that can be used on that hole, which seems kind of cool. One seems a little bit easier to hit than the other, but that's a potential eagle hole, I guess, for bombers and everything like that. So what does this mean for eagle potential? Because we have no course data to go off of. We have 3 long par 5s and 1 short par 4 that I see of any potential eagle potential. But the thing is also, the reason why I'm saying there is even eagle potential in the first place is because this course is 7,870 feet specifically above sea level. Or I should say Mexico City is. The course, I'm sure, varies throughout the course a little bit. But to give you an idea, Denver is the mile-high city, and that's 5,280 feet. So it's about a 2,000-foot difference in just between the mile-high city and what Mexico City is, and Mexico City is higher up. So that'll give you an idea that the ball is essentially going to fly. It's going to travel very far. People will be hitting their shots at least a club further, or a club and a half farther. The ball's going to travel that much more. So they have to club down a little bit essentially, and their drives will obviously travel farther. So again, this will be tough to determine exactly how many eagles. If my guess, and just looking at this, and this is just the best educated guess I can give, and it's probably not that great to begin with, I don't think there are really going to be any eagles on hole 6, just because it is uphill and there's water right in front of the green, and so you have a forced carry. So unless they move the tees up and it's downwind or something like that, seems to be very unlikely. Number 11 I could see being possible, just because it's slightly downhill and maybe it's firm there where the ball's going to roll and players can hit high cuts into the green, but I think you're going to have to be a longer hitter there to do it. And then number 15, 572 is straight uphill, although that's a pretty severely sloped green I saw from back to front. That seems to be a little bit more of a bomber's hole, I'm going to guess here a little bit as well. And then number 1 at 316, I'm not exactly sure. That's kind of a tight opening hole too as well. I'm not exactly sure how many eagles that hole will yield, but my guess is there will be a slight advantage to the longer bombers, to the longer hitters, essentially, for eagles here. A little more than we've been getting the last couple weeks. That's just my guess. But again, it's not a very well educated guess, because again, we have no course data to go off of. As far as details on the course outside of the eagles angle, this course has a great balance of short, mid-range, and longer par 4s. There are some that are in the 300 range. There are some that are a couple in the above 500 yards, and then there's some all over the 400-yard range. So all the clubs in the bag really should be used this week, in my estimation. As far as some specifics outside of distances, we have heavy tree-lined fairways. If you just miss the fairway, you're going to be fine. There's a little room off the fairway, but if you miss the fairway badly, you're going to be in heavy trees, and it's going to be a situation where you're very likely just going to have to punch on back out to the fairway. You're going to have to get really lucky to find a gap in the trees to be able to, to kind of hit up to the green like you normally would. There's a little bit of water, but it's really not that much, and there's just really not that many hazards or penalty strokes out on the golf course. There's just a few that come into play, like there's the water on 6 I said in front of the green. 17's a par 3 that has a pond. I think there's a par 3 on the front that has a pond as well, but that's kind of all you're really dealing with on the penalty stroke standpoint. So strategy-wise, I don't have much here. From a statistical angle, I'm guessing that this is going to be a tee to green course. I am saying this because it's bad to miss the fairway here, and if you're going to miss the fairway, you barely want to miss it. And so it's definitely an accuracy standpoint, but also I think the length is certainly going to help you as well, just because of the point I talked about with eagles on the par 5s. So I do think this is going to be mostly a tee to green course here. And also, not only are the fairways a little on the narrower side, the greens are a little bit smaller as well, actually. And so I actually think not only strokes gained, tee to green, strokes gained off the tee, but strokes gained approaching the green as well. Those are kind of the three. I would throw them all in a hat, basically, essentially, and then look for any kind of statistical angle there, the players that are doing well in that category in particular this year. The other thing I would look at is a little bit more this week than usual is recent form, just because we don't have the course data to go off of. And this is a new course probably for everybody. I'm sure they'll get their practice rounds in this week, but I doubt many pros have experience at this course. This isn't even like a golf course that's, in an area where professionals are living right now. Like, this isn't a new venue in Southern California, or probably better example in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Like, this isn't like basically a course that like somebody happened to grow up on. Like, this is going to be a pretty new course to everybody. So probably we're going to have to rely a little bit more on recent form here this week. And then the last thing is, as far as the odds per dollar angle, this is kind of the same salary structure this week, but it's a little different here. And that and I only say this because there is a lot of good value out there because it's not following strictly the sports book odds. But what it is, the one thing that's different about this week is that there's a lot of good value in that 7 to 8K range, but there aren't like 2 or 3 guys that really pop out or stand out. So when I took a look at the odds per dollar and then just kind of looked at all the different options in the 7K range, I kind of looked at it and said, all these salaries will be slightly inflated just because we have a smaller field, but realistically, I don't see 1 or 2 guys like being outrageously owned like 25 to 30% in that 7K range. Maybe 1 or 2 guys get up to the 20% range, but even so, because we don't have a cut this week, I just don't, and because of the way the salaries kind of worked out, I actually just don't, I really wouldn't worry about fading to lower priced, high ownership guys this week or trying to focus hard too much on. I think it's just way too much guesswork to try and do it this week. And I just think if you're going to play this week, you just try and make the best lineups possible. You go with some recent form, you go with the tee to green angle a little bit, and you just hope for the best and you limit your bankroll this week. That's really the best thing I can tell you essentially this week. If you want, I'm just going to, instead of kind of giving picks this week, I'm just going to kind of give you my general thoughts on the 5 guys who are over 10,000 in this video, and then I can talk more about the other guys on the website over at DailyFantasyWinners.com in the forum. So the most expensive guy is Dustin Johnson at 12.5K. This makes perfect sense here. I think he very much should be the favorite given his current form, and especially if this is a little bit more of a tee to green course, that even more illustrates that Dustin would do well here. The only thing I will say here is I would probably not use him in cash only because he's 12.5, and there is a lot of good value in that kind of, there is good value all the way down to 7K and, into the 6K range a little bit. But at the same time, I would just say that if you use Dustin, that means you're using all pretty much 7K guys the rest of the way. And there's a lot of good value in the 8K range and even the lower 9K range. My goodness, like Adam Scott and Justin Rose are in the 9K range and they're playing very well this year. So, and if Ricky Fowler's even under 10K and he just won the Honda. So it's just to say that Dustin is a little expensive and I probably would just say use him in GPPs, maybe more than cash. But again, if you really want to use him in cash, I don't blame you. I get it. Jordan Spieth, I think he's great in all formats. He's obviously in outstanding form. I had been saying even leading up to his win at Pebble, he was only a couple holes away every tournament he had played in from winning the darn thing or being right there in the end. And then you saw, obviously, at Pebble, he didn't have those couple bad holes, and he crushed it. And he had a really stress-free Sunday. So Spieth's great in all formats. I have no issues with him using him here. Rory McIlroy, 10,900. Nice value there. The only thing you should know about Rory is he's coming off the rib injury that he suffered in South Africa, I believe it was, about a month and a half ago, something like that. And so I would not use Rory in cash here just to be safe. From the WD risk, if I'm Rory in this situation, first of all, you could look at this from either side. You could say, Rory is not going to do anything to jeopardize his Masters chances. So if he gets out there and something pops up with his rib, he will have no issue withdrawing. You could also play the other side of this and say, well, if Rory's maybe not 100%, he's not going to take any chances and withdraw just before the tournament. So the fact that he's playing means he's 100% healthy and I shouldn't have to worry about him. You could play either side of this. I'm just saying it's a little bit more risk in cash, and I just don't, with so many great players and such a great field this week, I just don't think playing Rory in cash is necessary. But certainly in GPPs, by all means, absolutely go for it. Hideki at 10.7K, absolutely. If this is a tee to green course, like I'm thinking it could be, Hideki 100% all the way, because again, of course, he is a tee to green guy. Henrik Stenson at 10.3K. Probably wouldn't. I mean, really, you can use them in both formats, honestly. But if you're interested in ownership at all, Stenson's going to slip through the cracks a little bit. If I had to guess, of everyone, you do take a look at Stenson's profile on DraftKings, or I should say his game log, and he has 3 top 8s this year. However, one's at the Hero World Challenge and the other 2 on the European Tour. Now, he's obviously playing great golf, but it's just for me to say Stenson's actually been unintentionally under the radar a little bit this year, if that makes any kind of sense. Just because he's been playing over the European Tour, people don't pay quite as much attention, and there's a lot of popularity around the guys above him and even just below him, because Ricky won last week, and Justin Rose obviously nearly won the tournament a few weeks ago. And so it's just basically to say that Stenson's ownership might be a little bit lower this week. So maybe he's could be some better value than some of the other guys in GPPs, potentially there at 10.3. So, but honestly, there really isn't anybody that I would draw a major red flag to this week, other than just to say I probably wouldn't go Rory in cash for the injury standpoint, and maybe Dustin just because of the expense. But it's pretty minimal this week there. But again, this is kind of a free for all this week. Again, so tee to green guys potentially, and some longer hitters and some good form, pretty standard stuff. So again, sorry, that's all I got for this week. I'll give you some more in-depth thoughts on some of the lower price guys over on DailyFantasyWinners.com in the forum. Thank you for watching, and you can always follow me on Twitter at Nick Yuskevich. Daily Fantasy Winners is on Twitter at DFantasyWinners, and then of course our YouTube channel. We enjoy all the subscriptions and likes as well. All right, thanks everyone, and good luck.